And welcome, as we're doing this live on Saturday morning, to the Howard Eskin Show. And there are always issues with injuries, and we'll talk to one doctor who's very, very, very well versed on injuries. These poor guys, they can't play more than 50 games a year in the NBA. I mean, it must be the doctors. I mean, everybody on radio and TV always blames the doctors. It's not the doctors. It's these guys, and we'll get into that. We'll get into the Eagles. Paul George got booed last night. We'll get into that. Darius Slay's got a big mouth. We'll get into that. Charles Barkley buries ESPN. We'll get into that. And Jokic, who I've said for years is so much better than Joel Embiid, had done something. He's done a lot of things. Did something last night that's never, ever, ever been done in the NBA. But injuries are an issue, and I want to they are an issue. By the way, thanks to our sponsors, ABC Tickets. Tickets you can get all over the world with ABC Tickets, and the people where I get my automobiles. Audi Devon, great people, and the car is a great car. All right, let's welcome in Dr. Nick DiNubile. Nick, good morning. How are you? Morning when we're doing this. Nick, it's being a team doctor is not always, and you were, let me introduce Nick. He was a team doctor for, I don't know how many years in the NBA with the Sixers. Worked on the President's Council for Physical Fitness. He's done a lot of things, had a lot of, you know what? He's dug into a lot of knees, elbows, shoulders, whatever it is. He's dug into them, wrists. Nick, welcome to the program this morning.
Morning, Howard. How are you?
I'm great. Nick, this has got to, and you're not the team doctor anymore. It's probably a benefit not to be the team doctor.
I wouldn't want to be doing it right now.
No, especially the way that things are. It's really a shame. You guys have to the team doctors have to get their own insurance. The leagues and the teams don't insure you, and insurance is really a problem now. It just, as we in the public understand. But the injuries that exist in the NBA nowadays, didn't players, first of all, what years were you the team doctor with the Sixers? Let's get that clarified.
I was there. I joined this historically right before the Combines where we drafted Allen Iverson. So it was just before Allen. I had all the Allen Iverson years. Like him or not, he played tough, hard, hurt. I mean, he did not want to not play. He want to practice, different thing, right? but play 100%, 110% all the time. Hurt, he would still be out there. Different mentality for sure. And different players have different mindsets, and we'll get into that. But all the Iverson years and a few years past that, so maybe about 13 years as the Sixers team doc. And I've gotten to see players from all the other teams at different times, and a lot of recreational athletes. So my 40-year career, I've run the spectrum. But yeah, and the mindset is so important.
And I want to touch on Iverson a little bit. We know practice. We talking practice. He didn't want to practice. We know that. But when he came out and played in the game, he played hard. Didn't always, he shot a lot and he did all those things. I'm not going to get into his game. But physically, he played with injuries, we'll call them injuries, that guys today take a few games off for. I mean, how many times did he come out and play when you knew, as the doctor, he was hurt?
All the time, especially as it got towards the playoffs. I mean, he went 110%. Remember him running in the Shaq like a brick wall and hitting the ground, and the bruises on his body and the welts on his body that you would see afterwards. But you could not, if you held a gun to his head, you couldn't keep him out of the game. You really couldn't.
So you watch players today, and Paul George is an example. Paul George last night went to the wrestling event at the Wells Fargo Center. People don't like him already. He hasn't even been here a full season. He takes off games. Other than last year when he was playing for a contract, he averaged 50-some games a year in an 82-game season. So here we have a guy. What the hell is groin stiffness? Really? Is that an injury or is that an excuse?
It could be an injury. I mean, it could be a slight groin pull or a little early arthritis in the hip where you lose a little mobility and it's a little tighter. And can you play through that? Probably, yeah. But you know how it is today. It's not just the doctor and the player. There's agents involved. There's, they're looking at how the team's doing. Is it worth risking anything in their body? And they make a decision not to want to put themselves in harm's way in any way, shape, or form, which is not professional sports. I mean, professional sports halfway through the season, most players are banged up and hurt and, they don't feel great. And the summer they'll recover, or the off season they recover. But, it is grueling. There's no question it's grueling, but it's how committed are you to do it? But groin stiffness means he's got, I don't know. It's not something you could objectively say, oh, yeah, on X-ray he has this, so he shouldn't be playing. It's really, he says, my groin hurts a little bit, so we'll sit you.
There's a message here from a fellow named James Lafrida. He says Allen Iverson's ability was his availability. And that is clearly, he didn't want to miss a game, where it's almost the opposite with today's players. Now, you don't know what the injury is, only the doctor. But there's a point where you got to say, come on, man. Paul George didn't play 2 games in it. He had 3 games in 4 nights, so he played the middle game, and then he didn't play the next game. He just takes off, and there's always something different. And I'm picking on Paul George, but let's get back. Let's now turn to Humpty Dumpty, because the Sixers are trying to put him back together again for people to remember Humpty Dumpty. Joel Embiid has a knee injury. Can you really fix to the point where he can be close to the same player not the same player, but even remotely close to the same player he was before with the injury?
Yeah, and I know your listeners and viewers are highly sophisticated, so this answer is going to take a little time because I think it's important. Let's go back a couple of years when he has a meniscus tear, right? So you tear your meniscus, that's a relatively quick surgery, relatively quick recovery. This is all I do. I'm a knee specialist. I've done 10,000, if not more, of these.
I've had a meniscus surgery. I know. I was walking on the sidelines a day later at Miami, Florida State. I mean, it's these guys with meniscus and they're out for, it's like they're on life support. But
correct.
I'm sorry to
remember Djokovic 3 weeks after his meniscus surgery, he won Wimbledon, which is grueling. You're talking about singles tennis through a 2-week period playing, 5 sets. But let's go back. So Embiid, first one, meniscus, quick recovery, should be a quick recovery. So then he tears his meniscus again, right? And then it's another meniscus surgery. And it should be a quick recovery after that. When you're getting months, year after that, persistent swelling in your knee, the meniscus is not the problem anymore. You're now in another area. So knee anatomy, quick. There's 2 types of cartilage in your knee. There's your meniscus cartilage. When you hear I have a torn cartilage, that's your meniscus. And those are relatively easy to fix. You either remove a little piece or repair it. Then there's the articular cartilage, which is the cushion on your knee. And that's when people's articular cartilage, every joint has that cartilage that on the bone cover. When you start to lose that, you're talking about arthritis or damage to the cushion cartilage, the articular cartilage. For me, as a knee specialist, and I haven't examined him, but it's pretty clear to me with ongoing swelling and ongoing issues that respond to rest and then flare up as soon as he gets out there, he has damage in that knee that is significant. I bet the outer side of his knee, which is where he had his meniscal tears, does not tolerate losing meniscus. So the combination of losing the shock absorber, 2 surgeries, and the type of trauma that the way he plays is really hard on his body. He lands funny all the time. He falls more than anybody I've ever seen. And that's high impact loading. So if this knee keeps swelling and is not responding to rest and injections, my bet is damage in that knee, whether it's arthritis starting, or focal damage, which we call articular defects or chondral defects, almost like a Philly pothole on the joint cushion. Now, when you want to fix that, you're talking Hail Mary kind of.
Well, let me just clarify this. So, in the case of Joel Embiid, whatever surgery they may or may not do if they're going to do it, they should probably do it before the end of the season so he has time to heal.
But whenever they recovery.
Okay, number one, how likely is it that it can be repaired to a point where he can play at least half the games?
So you might be able to get to that, but that's where he is now, right? Maybe if you wanted to.
Well, he's not. He's played 19 games this year.
Yeah, he's not even doing half of them at this point. So the surgeries that they're throwing around is a meniscal allograft, which means you put a cadaver meniscus in there. And then that's not enough, though. If there's cushion damage and it's repairable, then you're trying to either do microfracture surgery you hear about where you're regenerating a new cushion, or the more sophisticated, there's something called MACI, where you actually can grow his own cells and patch the area, right? And that process, if you do either of those surgeries, you're not allowed to even run or jump on that knee, sometimes up to 9 months. So you have to baby the knee for 6-9 months, no running, no jumping, no loading. And then you see, did it work or not? It's like people who are trying to grow their hair. They're putting minoxidil in. Some people grow hair, some people don't. So will you regenerate a cushion? And how great is the cushion that is regenerated? Will it withstand, 80 games plus, especially if they, make the play?
He'll never play 60 games in a season. I'm just basing on what you said. It's how likely is it that he can be a very good player again? We know he's not going to play a lot of games, but that repair with the way his knee is, and he obviously has almost no cartilage, kind of based on what you're saying here, how likely is it that he can be anywhere close to the same player? And let me remind people, and we probably know, he's got 4 years of a contract starting next year. So how likely is it that he can play anywhere near the ability that he played before?
He's such a talented player and such a great player, and he plays hard. I mean, hard on his body. Hard on his body.
Right.
Hard on his body. I think it's a long shot. I mean, I really hope they can get the regeneration. I think that's what it's going to need based on everything that I know and what I'm hearing. I don't know for sure. I haven't seen his knee or his MRI, but I've seen it enough. I've seen this enough in patients over the years that this kind of swelling, this kind of response that his knee's having at this point shouldn't be like this unless there's real damage in there. So when I said Hail Mary, I think it is a Hail Mary pass, and then it's the work. Imagine if you're out that long, then you have to be committed to work really hard. He's got to keep his weight down. He's got to keep the rest of his body really fit. We can talk about that, how, even for the recreational athlete, how do you, stay out of my office? What are the keys to not getting hurt? But so it's a commitment. It's a year-round commitment. I know the other day you were talking about with your son, Michael Jordan, but people don't realize for every minute he was on the court, he probably spent an hour behind the scenes making his body ready, right? I mean, he was committed. There's athletes that really work hard behind the scenes so that they're not getting in trouble all the time, or the risk is lower. And some athletes are not like that way. So with a long recovery like that, out of basketball, and then the road back, getting back in shape, and then seeing if the knee holds up under pressure and how much. So it's unfortunate. He's a young guy, relatively young guy at this point, talented. Keep thinking he's young, but did you say he was 30 the other day?
Yeah, he's 30 years old. I'm pretty sure he's 30 years old, or in there, and that's when the decline starts, especially with a player that's been injured as much as he has. But and this, I'm not putting this on you, but I was told that at the beginning of the season, some of the doctors, and everybody blames the doctors. It's not the doctor's fault.
Yeah.
It's just some of the doctors gave him a rehab program to try to strengthen the knee. He didn't like it, so he didn't do it. He's got to be. you've got to be committed to want to play. I'll tell you, and this is totally not medical at all, the way to get him to focus on rehab and work and keep his weight down is to not have a contract for next year. And you have to give him a contract, give him a 1-year contract. These guys, once they get their money, you're cooked. You're cooked. He's going to make $62.5 million a year for the next 4 years after this.
Yeah, the motivation changes when it's guaranteed contract. It's a guaranteed contract.
All right, so let me clarify this, Nick. If he has surgery, the likelihood to try to do the surgery that might get him back to a semblance of the player he is 9 months. He wouldn't be back for approximately, 7 to 9 months after the surgery?
Yeah, I mean, if it's a cartilage regeneration procedure and a new meniscus, yes, it's that first 6 months, 6 to 9 months, you have to treat it like a newborn baby. The knee, you can't, because it's trying to grow. The cushion is not real solid yet, and it's a process that we have not been able to speed up. So the results are unpredictable. The results are good. I mean, this is stuff we couldn't do when I started my training. The idea of regenerating your knee was unheard of, but we actually have that technology now. But it's a big ask to regenerate for the demands of NBA career. And you and I have talked about it. It reminds me of the Jeff Ruland situation, unfortunately. And that was a great show, by the way. He was very honest, and he worked hard, and he really cared. But I was part of that process, as I had told you. I think it was before they signed him. They brought me in just for my advice, and they asked me to look at this folder of an athlete, and I read it, and I saw that the outer lateral side of his knee, same as Joel, had areas that were badly damaged, and in his case, from his prior arthroscopy, it said areas of near bone on bone. And I said, I don't think this is compatible with playing in the NBA. And then I didn't realize he only played 5 games.
5 games. Well, then he retired for 4 years and came back and played 13 games with the Sixers. He wanted to come back and try it again.
And he wanted to play. He would have done anything.
Yes. Yep.
He worked hard, and he really was motivated. It's just the nature of the beast. The knee tells you otherwise. So that's the kind of injury. The injuries athletes get, they're acute injuries, the ankle sprains. Those are easy. The overuse injuries or the repetitive strain. But this is where you now have what could be a chronic condition, and how do you reverse that? You're trying to turn back the clock on that knee.
All right. So now we're talking about injuries, and it's the 76ers. There is a stipulation in the NBA, and it has to be an NBA doctor. If an NBA doctor determines that Joel Embiid physically cannot play basketball anymore, his money comes off the cap. However, they still have to pay him his salary, and so are you going to pay another guy? But that's another discussion for another time. What is the likelihood? And again, I know, just let's clarify: you are not the doctor that have examined him, so you can talk about this. The likelihood that, and Joel Embiid would not want this, because he wants the ego of being Joel Embiid, and once he stops playing, that's the end of that. He'll get his money, but his ego would be damaged. What is the likelihood that a doctor could determine after the surgery that he is no longer capable of playing in the NBA any longer?
Well, and I think it's not only a doctor in the NBA. Isn't there another? And it has to also be approved. That doctor has to be approved by the Players Association. Is that correct?
There's probably a lot of stipulations with that. Yes.
So you're picking the doc who's going to hopefully be neutral. And I think most docs are honest and neutral, unless back in the day, I know other teams where they would insist that, hey, we need this guy tonight, get him out there. It's that those days are over. Like back in the old Chargers day, where they would just, it's only a bruise, get back out there, But it depends on what they see at the time of surgery. And if they're doing that kind of surgery, they have to be optimistic to say, okay, they did regeneration, so hopefully things will heal. So I think it's going to be a tough call for somebody to, especially if
To
he's
say
willing to
that's
undergo
it.
the surgery. If he's
Yeah.
willing to undergo it and they see a smaller area of damage, and they remove some debris from the knee, some floating chips, or put in a new meniscus, try to regenerate, they'll say, yeah, if this works, he can play. But
You know what? I
that's a big if.
I
Now,
don't think.
if right now, if somebody said based on what his last scope showed and the kind of things, they might say no now. But I don't think that would be the case, because I think there is a surgery coming. I think there's going to have to be.
Well, I don't think the Sixers want him to be ruled out, even though, they would come off the cap. They still have to pay the money. So let's say they got a good player at $40 million. That's one spot on your roster that's over $100 million. So people got to understand, even though his money comes off the cap, he still gets paid, and it still costs the team. I don't think Josh Harris is going to pay $100 million for a roster spot. But all right, let's get into injuries in sports.
One other
Like,
thing, Howard, that's kind of
yeah,
funny, and you'll appreciate this. Two things, actually. I remember Todd McCullough had a great line once, and we're sitting there, and
he used to
everybody's
play for
playing,
the
and I
Sixers
noticed
for people who don't remember. Yeah,
Todd was a great guy, very
yeah,
thoughtful guy, and it's interesting when we would win a game, the training room would be empty, nobody would be hurt. When you lose a game, the training room is filled, and everybody's licking their wound. It's so funny, the mindset. But he looked at me once, and he kind of with a half smile said, "Winning accelerates healing." I thought,
you know what? It's exactly right, because you want to be part of a winner. And this team is not a winner. The Sixers are just a disaster area, and there's a lot of reasons for that. And it's not only Joel Embiid. I mean, signing Paul George at like 34 years old was ridiculous, to a max 4-year contract, especially when he bails out on games, is ridiculous.
and then the other point is, when we used to go to the combines to look at these recruits, who we're going to draft and all,
Yep.
it's amazing how many injuries and surgeries these kids have had already before the NBA. But when you're examining, nothing ever hurts. Nothing. Everything's fine. And then when they sign, all of a sudden, well, I've got the stress fracture. I've got you see that too. So you got to watch when they come in for those kind of evaluations. Is, can I play? Am I going to be okay? Should I sign a contract? Usually they're like, I feel great, And
Well,
then once they sign,
hockey players are the toughest.
they are.
PK Subban buried the NBA for their lack of desire to play, especially when they're getting paid and the fans are paying big prices for tickets. Hockey players are the toughest athletes of the major sports that you will ever see. Now, but football players are tough too. Brandon Graham, if the Eagles, he came back because he's a good guy and he wanted to play, and it was the Super Bowl. But there's other players. Nolan Smith played. He tore something in his elbow. I don't know what it was, but he played through it. And he just played through it in a game. The NBA players, I don't know if I can make it the rest of the game. But NBA is brutal, and baseball's kind of getting that way now. 162 games is too much for a player, right? If a player plays 140 games, that's really good enough, because physically on your body, and there's still some teams that play on artificial surface, not that many, but in baseball. But physically, can a player endure a baseball player 162 game schedule without having some kind of injury?
That's tough. I mean, but it's been done. There's no question. I mean,
Because they want to play.
yeah. Well, yeah, they play through injuries. They play through injuries. That's correct. Iron Man, never met Nolan Ryan, right? Or was it Nolan Ryan? No. No, Cal Ripken.
Cal Ripken. Yeah, I mean, he played, but he was going after a record, but he still played. But Nolan Ryan, I mean, again, they're only pitching at that time it was every 4 days, and he threw hard. It didn't matter. I'm sure his arm wasn't 100% when it got to halfway through the season, but these guys just went out and played, and they give the team everything they got. But money has changed. In talking to Charles Barkley, and he knows it, money has changed players so dramatically that it's just not the same. What was the worst, the most difficult, and obviously you don't want to mention the player, difficult injury and surgery that you can remember? What is the most difficult for a player to come back from?
Wow, that's what's tough is ACLs used to be that way, but now the way we fix them, it's amazing the progress we've made. It's amazing. Small incision, not quick recovery though, because they feel great quick, but you have to give that new graft, the new ACL, time to mature in the knee, and that's why people are out 6 to 9 months. But a month or sometimes 6 weeks after the surgery, they feel great and they feel like they can play, but we know it's too dangerous at that point. But the multi-ligament knee injuries, when it's not just the ACL, in football you get more of that. They get clipped, and you tear the ACL, the LCL, the lateral collateral ligament, or the MCL. You tear your meniscus with it. The multi-ligament injuries, the knee gets really stiff. That's a tough thing to come back from. But even that, they work hard. They do come back. It's pretty amazing with that.
You know what? A lot of people say when you talk about players from years ago, oh yeah, you're just an old man on the lawn screaming on the lawn. That's nonsense. Somebody sent a message here. They're talking about Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant, he had to have a broken leg probably to not play. I don't know how many times you may have met Kobe, but you watched him play. And the guy, and I'm sure you've talked to those doctors, he had to be hurt some of those games. Where is the player's desire, like Kobe Bryant, like Moses Malone, like you go the tough guys, because Allen Iverson, as we mentioned earlier, where did those players go, and how tough was Kobe Bryant?
Kobe, I met him during the combines actually when we were looking at him. It's a different mindset, and what a lot those players like that, we would like to, and this is good for the average person too. There's a difference between hurt and harm. You know what I mean? Some of these players want to know, this hurts, but am I going to harm? Am I going to make things worse? Am I going to damage things worse if I go out on this? No. That's something you can go out on, and that were Allen. If even Allen, even with the harm, it was hard to keep him back. But hurt or harm, so they're banged up, things hurt, but no, you're not going to permanently damage things or ruin your life or your career, and they're willing to go. Whereas there's other players, if it hurts, they don't want to go either way, even if there's no potential harm. I mean, sports, there's risk with sports, so there's always potential. Anytime you're out there, something can happen suddenly, but it's that mindset of, what is my risk here? I remember when we were in the, making a run, if you remember, Eric Snow had that ankle fracture and it was fixed with plates and screws and it wasn't healed. And he knew the risk is that he could have come down on that. The whole thing could have come apart because the bone wasn't healed. It was being held together by plates and screws, and they're only so strong, right? But yep. he made that. He said, "I'm willing to take that risk if it comes apart, we'll put it back together again," type of thing. So that's a whole different mindset, right?
Yeah, it really is. Somebody brought up Willis Reed, and there's probably people out there that don't remember Willis Reed, who was a center for the Knicks, came out in the playoff game limping just to go out there and give them some minutes. It's like, and I'm going to talk about LeBron or LaFraud James, whatever you want to call him. This guy, he's taking a night off because he has whatever injury, sore ankle, whatever. But if a guy really wanted to help his team, he'd give him 15 minutes. You know why players these guys that already have their contracts don't give them 15? Hurts their scoring average, hurts their averages, because it goes in to the combination of all the games.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Well, think about that. So I'm sure LaFraud wants to keep his scoring average over 20 points a game. So if he plays a game for 15 minutes and he does that 5 to 10 times a year, it kind of reduces your scoring average a little bit. You see, it's all about their numbers. It's all about It's really kind of a joke.
Well, the other unfortunate thing, and you know this better than anyone, is that it's infectious too in the locker room. It affects the way the whole team plays
Right.
when your leader or your top person is, not putting 100% or doesn't really want to. That spreads in the locker room, and again, the mindset when you get a team that's fired up and they're all one and they all know
Yeah.
they're going 100%. You have a whole different machine going there.
You
But
know, I want to. It's really kind of interesting, and it just when players don't play, fans have to wonder: are they really hurt bad enough that they shouldn't play? Football sometimes you have to play for the next year unless you got a guarantees. But a lot of players have to play for the next year. Basketball, once you give a guy a guaranteed contract, it's history. It's really kind of a shame. But the one thing I wanted to touch on, Nick, before we go, the medical profession, and I feel bad that medical doctors can't have their own practices anymore. They have to be part of a group because of the insurance situations and the suits. And it's just Chris Maragos. I don't know if you remember Chris Maragos. Had surgery. He was a special teams player for the Eagles during the Super Bowl year, 2017, the 2017 season. Great guy. But he sued the doctors because and you're vulnerable when you're a team doctor. You get sued directly. John Uribe, who we both know, and I don't know if people know, he still does. I still think he's the Miami Dolphins doctor. He works for the University of Miami. He got sued by, was it O.J. McDuffie, the former Penn State player, and his surgery was performed by somebody. It's a long story, but it's a shame the culpability that doctors have, that the medical practices have, that your practice, and I know you worked for a hospital that closed down. I guess Delaware, was it Delaware Valley? Closed
Delaware
down.
County was one of mine. Yeah, I'm on other places though. But yeah,
right.
it's healthcare is a mess, and right now that's going on in this area. And I know I won't mention names, but one of the big orthopedic groups pulled out of taking care of the teams because of, and even our group was taking care of the Philadelphia Union, and one of the decisions was the liability because your insurance only covers you a certain amount, and
Right.
these players, because of their salaries, you could get hit with a $50 million lawsuit. And you're not protected by the team. If the team even made you an employee, $1 a year as an employee, then you can't sue a fellow employee. So that would protect the doc. It would be that simple, really. But they don't do that. So it's at some point it's going to be a little tougher to find good team physicians, I think, because they don't want to take the risk.
The medical groups want to be a part of it, and they pay. In the case, I don't know how much Penn Medicine.
They pay.
It's 7 figures. Awful. Yeah, and they pay, and then their doctors pretty much have to do it if they're part of that medical group. But I'm not.
Well, they advertise them. We're the team doctor. I think that should be.
I'm not criticizing.
Everybody pays to do it now. I never paid to be a team.
Yeah,
physician.
I'm not criticizing them. That's just the way the world is. But Nick,
it's the way it is.
Injuries. Well, if
listen, you go ahead. I was going to say before you go. I know you were great with your son, by the way. That was fun. Yeah, you tortured him. You tortured the poor kid.
Well, you got it coming from Hollywood. And damn kids coming from Hollywood. You got to share some of those stories.
Yeah, but then you tried to get into the movies. Now, maybe I could talk to Arnold for you and get you terminated.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I wanted to mention that. And I'm glad you mentioned that. I got into the injuries, and I apologize for not mentioning it. Your connection with Arnold Schwarzenegger goes back to when Reagan was the president. Explain, and that's how I met Arnold, through you. I'm glad you brought that up. Darn, I can't believe that I didn't mention that. Arnold Schwarzenegger and you are friendly because you first got together where?
Well, we go back almost 40 years, and we did work closely together during the Bush administration on the President's Fitness Council, but I had met him before that through a guy named Joe Weider. You probably know that name, Weider Barbells and Weider Protein. He's the guy who brought Arnold to this country. And I used to write for Weider Publications, Muscle and Fitness and Men's Fitness. And I helped take care of Joe Weider with some orthopedic issues. And he kind of first introduced me out in California or somewhere. I forget where we first met to Arnold. But then we really got friendly in the 80s when we connected. He appointed me to work with the President's Fitness Council under Bush 1, and then our friendship blossomed after that. But yeah, maybe we can get you in one of the get you terminated in one of the movies.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'd be happy to be. Well, a lot of people would like to see me get terminated in one of the movies. You know, it's just a terrific actor, and I only met him the one time with you, but he seemed like it was at the Wells Fargo Center, and we were in a suite, and we talked for a little while, but he just seemed like such a good guy, but it looks like he cares about people, and sometimes people at that level don't care. What was the best trait that you found about Arnold Schwarzenegger?
You know, he's a very, very smart, kind, generous guy. But one of the things is his vision and how he never he, the way he gets things done. He just has a mindset that, okay, you know, clear the hurdles. Just there's going to be there's a path here. Let's figure it out. And he believes. I mean, everything he's accomplished in life, people have said, no, you can't do that. You're out of your mind, right? I want to come to the United States. I want to be a champion bodybuilder. Then I want to be an actor. No, you can't be an actor. You know, you should read his book, Be Useful. He has a new book out. Last year, I think it came out, called Be Useful. I think every kid should read this book because it's not only about how you get things done and how you, when people are saying no, that you can't do this, how you have a different mindset to find ways to do what you really want in life. And then once you accomplish it, his dad always used to say to him, be useful, Arnold, be useful, you know, because he thought he was like never going to make it to anything. But it's about giving back. So Arnold does spend, you know, he really cares. He tries to give back to lots of amazing causes at this point, spends a lot of his own time and money doing that. And the book Be Useful, I listened to the audiobook's great because it's him telling it. And it's like you're sitting down with him. You love it. So
did he do his own stunts in movies?
He did a lot of them, yeah.
He did. All right. So now the question is, because Bruce Willis told me one time, and I you know, it's sad what's happened to him medically, but he was at a Phillies game. His father was a Phillies fan. He worked in the Camden shipyards. So Bruce was close as a Phillies fan as well. So I saw him on the field, and I said to him, Die Hard 1 or 2, which one was the best? And he walks over to me. He's about, you know, like a few yards away. Walks over, he says, 1. He says, and you know, I did my own stunts, and I broke my collarbone when I was hanging on the wing of the plane. So now, with that story, Schwarzenegger, what kind of injuries? He had to have injuries. If he's doing his own stunts, you have to have injuries. What kind of injuries did he have doing his own stunts that you knew about?
I knew he had a lot of issues. I mean, he's had both shoulders repaired. He's had a hip replaced. He's had knee surgery. So he's been banged up over the years. I know when he was making Terminator 2, the shoulder was so bad that when he was doing the shotgun scene, they had to make a very lightweight one because he couldn't even raise it. But but you know, it's the same thing. He powered through it, right? He wasn't not going to go out there and do what he needed to do, just like we were saying.
You know what? I'm going to put some pressure on you. One of these days, I got to get Schwarzenegger on this show, on my podcast, to talk about you.
Oh, that would be nice.
You know, maybe have both of you guys. He doesn't come to the East Coast, I guess, that many times, right?
Not Philly anymore. He used to come here. We'd have some fun times, but he gets to Washington and New York a lot.
Well, wait a minute. You probably go out to the West Coast to see him, right?
I haven't, and I'm really due. I'm really overdue. I'll probably see him this.
When you guys are together, you got to let me know, and I'll have both of you guys on, and you can just rip each other, just bang each other's heads. Well, you know what? Nick did this, and you could say, Arnold, you did this.
Oh, I have stories, but he knows I won't tell them. But, you know, he was on, not to talk about another podcast, but he was on with the Kelseys. It was pretty funny because they love him, and they used to hit with their dad. They used to sit and watch all his movies. So they are like.
I mean, I watched whatever Terminator it was when it comes on TV and I see the movie and I'm going through the channels and I see the Terminator, I stop and I watch it Gotta watch it.
I said, well, we could maybe have you terminated. You said you told your son, you told him that you
Yeah, I
only
want to
wanted
be
like
just
three
give me.
seconds. You only need 3 seconds. We could blow you up in 3 seconds.
Well, that's all right. We got to do it. All right, Nick. Hey, listen, I really appreciate it. Thanks, and say hello to Arnold. He wouldn't remember me. I met him when he had the inner city games. I tried to help him out with a bunch of those things.
Yes, you did.
So,
Thank you, and you did. And you always help. You listen. You have anything I've ever asked you for. Thank
no
you.
problem. But
You're
we got to
good guy.
We got to get him on. We got to get him on, and just I want him to rip you. No, I'm kidding.
Get you to the chopper.
Yeah, all right. Arnold, I'll be back. He is back. All right, Nick, thanks so much, and have a great day. And it's always good to hear from you. And we'll see if the Sixers can put Humpty Dumpty back together again.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Howard.
Dr. Nick DiNubile, orthopedist, and he's done a lot of great work with a lot of athletes and a lot of great athletes. Thanks so much. All right. There's so many things I want to get into. Charles Barkley buried ESPN. I want to get into that. Darius Slay has a big mouth. I want to get into that. The Eagles signing, the best one, and obviously you knew it was going to happen, was Zach Bond, and we'll get into that. I'm going to take maybe a 30-second break, and we'll be right back. And we are back, and again, thanks to ABC Tickets, where you can get tickets all over the world. I've told you, I've known these guys for close to 30 years, and they really do a great job. One of the things you got to remember, you know what, and if anybody wants to join the program, PJ, we could put out that link. ABC Tickets is great. The service fees, the price of the ticket's the price of the ticket. And Audi Devon has always been good to me, and they have a great vehicle and great people. All right, if anybody wants to join the program, I wanted to mention it earlier. I'm going to put out a link. Now, if you don't want to be on camera, you can turn the camera off. And you can click it off if you're sensitive about being on camera. Anybody wants to join, please do. We're putting out the link now. I guess on... We're putting it out on all the social media platforms. Yeah, we'll put them out on all the social media platforms. All right, let me address a few things here. All right. The Eagles, obviously people are worried about who they sign. There's a list of players out there, and Howie Roseman will sign somebody, because now that these players have been released by their teams, I got to believe they're going to sign for a lot less than they would have, and they may go back to their teams or they may come back. Javon Hargrave is an interesting name. Since he was here once, he was never a problem. Obviously, he signed for more money. The Eagles will lose some players, but Zach Bond was absolutely the most important. Even though he's a linebacker, he was really important to this team. He might have been the MVP of the Super Bowl. He really might have been the MVP. Well, the defense was the MVP. But not taking anything away from Jalen Hurts, who played a really good game. But the defense is what won the game, I think, for the Eagles. But, Javon Hargrave. Chase Young, I'm not sure about. Hassan Reddick is out there, but the way he left and he wanted more money, I don't know if that's going to work. I don't know if Khalil Mack can still play. But there's some names out there, and Howie Roseman will definitely, there's no question, somebody will come in and be a part of this football team. The other thing is Darius Slay, I don't think, sometimes when players are cut, they go back to the team that they were cut from because the money they were getting was just too much. Darius Slay was on a podcast. He just loves to go on podcasts and, say things. He's complaining I guess it was kind of a complaint that he was the leader of the defense, and he criticized C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I don't know that C.J. Gardner-Johnson's a leader, but he played hard, did a lot of things. He's a little crazy in a good way, but he also said something which people will consider a criticism. He was honest, but he probably shouldn't have said it. It was about the quarterbacks. And I forget which podcast it was on. They were talking about elite quarterbacks. And he kind of implied that Jalen Hurts wasn't among the elite of quarterbacks. I don't know that I disagree when you use the word elite. And he mentioned Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Josh Allen. All those quarterbacks are better than Jalen Hurts. And there's no question they're better. And that's not a criticism, and that's not a knock on Jalen Hurts, but they are better quarterbacks than Jalen Hurts. But did he really have to say it? It looks like he may sign with Detroit, and I'm okay with that. I don't need Darius Slay back. They've got some good young players, defensive backs, and they really don't need Darius Slay. You gotta try to stay young with these young guys. Is somebody? We have two
guests.
We have two guests.
You want to throw them on? Toolman Tim is up.
What's his name? Montool?
Toolman Tim.
Toolman Tim. Everybody's got a name. All right. Let's hear from Toolman Tim. Yeah. Toolman Tim, what's happening?
That's me. Hey, this is unbelievable, King. I can't believe I've called your show, tried to talk to you, never got through. Now I'm the first guest on the show. I love it.
Well, first guest this week. We had guests on before, but that's all right. So what's up there? You must work in construction in some way, right?
Actually, right now I'm working for a company called Alstom. We're delivering the new Acela Amtrak train sets.
Oh, okay.
The red, white, and blue ones. You see them off the highway there. They'll be running soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So what's up?
Well, I'm listen. I believe that Hurt. I at first I didn't, but I think Hurts is the guy, man. You know, he's the guy that's going to take us maybe next year
but
too.
He's not. Would you think he's better than Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, or Josh Allen?
Yeah, but I wouldn't go out on Broad Street and say that. You know?
No, but and Darius Slay he shouldn't have said that.
Right.
But he's not better than those quarterbacks. We know he's not one of the top 5 quarterbacks, but he's a good quarterback. And they won a Super Bowl with him, but they won for a lot. The Eagles won for a lot of reasons. They won because their offensive line is terrific. They won because Saquon Barkley had beyond a career year. They won because they have 2 dynamic, great wide receivers. They won because they have a really good tight end when he's healthy, Dallas Goedert.
Yeah.
They won because their defense was really good. So they are, when you talk about a team, they are a team. But the reality is, he's not one of the top 5. And that's not a knock on him. Because there's some really good quarterbacks out there.
Well, he likes to win, and I like that too. But anyway, this week I heard, why I really called, this week I heard, I was over at NovaCare getting some rehab, and I heard that they're going to sign Hurts to a minimum deal, 1-year deal. Zach Ertz?
I would be so. I mean, they need another tight end, and Zach Ertz is a great guy.
Yeah.
He seems like he stays healthy. You know, that wouldn't surprise me because the Redskins or the Commanders or whatever their name is,
whoever they are, right?
Has said they're not going to re-sign him.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't surprise me because he still lives, to my knowledge, I think he still lives in the area, or he has a home here. He might have, when he went to Arizona, he might have gotten a home there. But he and his wife are very connected with the community, so that wouldn't surprise me.
Okay.
Now, I don't know that that's going to happen, but that'll be down the line. Minimum deals you can do, you can wait. You want to get these other guys taken care of. You want to get somebody for the defensive line because I don't think Josh Sweat's coming back because they get a 3rd-round compensatory pick probably for him. So not that he had a good year, but you know sometimes you got to move on, and there'll be some other players. And I don't know that Becton. They'd like to keep him back for the offensive line, but he's going to get a lot of good. He's going to get a lot of good.
Yeah, is that the guy they got from the Jets?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
Listen, Bing, it's been great rapping to you, man. And keep
all
up
right,
the
it's
good
great
work.
talking. Tool
All right.
man, tool man.
Listen, get Arthur on the show too, man. I
Hey, you
want
know
to.
what? I'm glad you brought up Arthur because, I'm thinking about Joey Merlino, who was a real, he's a real criminal, or was, I should say was. He was, but he was. And I've talked to Joey multiple times. The problem is he always uses the four-letter word every other word. And, and I know on podcasts you can do that, but I don't.
Right.
I got to talk to Joe because he's going to open up a new steak shop. So maybe in connection with that. But
There you
Arthur, I
go.
think, is back in jail. I think Arthur's back in jail. All right,
All right.
Tim. Take care.
All right, you too.
Thanks for joining the program. All right. Well, before we go to our next caller, podcaster, whatever, Paul George got booed last night, and he should have gotten booed because he takes off games. He scored 2 points in a game before the All-Star break. And what a terrible, it was at SmackDown. It was at the Wells Fargo Center last night. It really is a joke. And it's just terrible. And Nikola Jokic scored 30 points, 20 rebounds, and 20 assists. That's never happened in the NBA. For those people that criticized me for saying that he was better than Joel Embiid, you can kiss my you-know-what, all right? This guy plays hard, and he never quits, never, ever, ever, and he plays a lot of minutes. All right, who's up next?
Collie boy.
Collie Boy? Okay, Collie Boy, what's up? You're on there, brother. Go ahead. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, you're on. You're on the show. You're on the show.
What's
All
up,
right.
buddy?
You tell me. Oh, we're pals now, huh?
No, not really. I followed you for years, Howard. I've been around
King
a long time.
PhD. I've got, I didn't mention it to Nick, but Nick knows I've got an honorary doctorate from Goldie Beacom College, so I am technically a doctor. But Collie Boy, what's up? Did we lose his
Where'd he
signal?
go?
He obviously doesn't know how to operate his phone. All
Collie
right,
boy.
Collie Boy. Okay, we'll try to get back and see if anybody else wants to join. What the hell happened?
We
You
got
know-
we got another one.
Okay, who is it?
I don't recognize him.
Okay.
Cowboy Jim.
Don't you have a flight or a job or something you got?
Cowboy Jim.
Don't you listen? You're not watching any Terminator movies. You're watching some Hallmark movie. That's what you're watching.
Hey, listen, I watched Serendipity the other night, which is not it could be a Hallmark movie.
Yeah.
I thought it was a great movie.
You're watching movies with cute little dogs and romance and stuff like that. That's what you're watching.
Because Arnold is great. All right, what do you? You
I
can't
got
say
a lot
anything-
of things I want to talk about. First of all, let's talk about LaFraud and Stephen A. Smith. What's going on there?
Well, Screaming A. Smith just tries to create attention for himself, and he does. And I can't say in this case he's wrong. He criticized his son. His son would never get a sniff of the NBA if LeFraud James was not a player. That's why J.J. Redick got his job because of LeBron James. That's why they selected Bronny James in the second round. He couldn't even start for a mediocre USC team. He's not an NBA player, and he criticized him rightfully so. He should not be on the team. He's taken up a spot for somebody that actually might be a good player. Can't play a little bit. He stinks.
Well,
He stinks.
okay. My other thing is this. I thought the NFL hated the fans, but they really hate the players. You're telling me you're going to have a game in Australia, and now after this game, you're going to fly back 15, 16 hours? I mean, if you have an injury
The one team in Australia aren't the Rams the one?
The Rams.
Okay, so it's a West Coast team, and that's the way you're going.
But that doesn't matter. It's still going to be 15 to 16 hours, no matter where you go. So if you have a concussion or a serious injury, now you're going to put the players on that airplane and go back for 15 or 16 hours. This is not a hospital. You got doctors and nurses, but what
kind of damage are we talking about to have a team play over in Australia? This is ridiculous.
Well, hey, let's just break it down to its simplest form. The NFL only cares about money. I shouldn't say only cares. They care about ratings. They care that their game grows. And I talked to David Akers this week, and I'm going to have him on in the future. The way that things have changed in the game, and the special teams, the kickoffs, and all these other things that are going on right now are ridiculous. But the reality is they only care about growing the game internationally because that's more television money internationally. It's not about ticket sales. It's about growing the game and making it an international sport, which basketball became because of the Olympics, and football doesn't have Olympics. But I agree. They should. Hey, Sao Paulo, the Eagles should have never gone to Sao Paulo. That's a 9 to Philadelphia, what, a 9.5 hour flight.
Well, that's only an hour difference. That's only an hour difference. You're talking about 12 to 13 hour difference.
I mean, it's the other side, the other end of the day in Australia. Yeah.
Right.
But, I would create a stipulation, the players say, because you might, if you have a concussion, you probably have to stay in a hospital over there. And that they require the NFL to give them a private plane. It's a lot of money, but they have it to give them a private plane to fly back to wherever they're flying back to. But
all right, one more thing. One more thing. The Eagles they gave their ratings, and when it came to travel, we got an F. Now you understand travel. They are pampered. They're pampered, and they're telling us that they got that because of what we were doing. We got an F for travel.
Who voted on that? Who voted on that?
Well, the players did.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. But again, I'm not back there. Well, I don't want to get into where I sat on the plane.
I know where you sat.
Well, I know, but it's just, it's just. Hey, listen.
What more could they?
I know. I'll say this. I know that the flight attendants on their flights were very, very attentive.
Thank you.
You were kind of a jerk.
Yeah, I am.
Not to the people on the plane, but normally. But they were very attentive, and I get it. I don't understand. I would give the flight attendants an A.
Okay.
But again, that's me. So it's just.
Except for me, correct?
Yeah, I might give you an A. You took care of a few things for me. So. But
all right, Dingbat.
Everybody was nice. All right, genius.
Take care.
All right, see you later. All right, I want to get to Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley flat out buried ESPN for good reason. Now, what he said, if you haven't heard this, is unbelievable because he buries the kissing of ass to the Lakers, which really translates to LeBron James. Let's hear from Charles Barkley.
I saw a fool idiot on TV talking about the Lakers saved the NBA.
Save the NBA?
Yeah. He's an idiot and a fool, but he know who he is. What's his name, Shaq?
Which one you talking about?
Kendrick Perkins. Oh. He said the Lakers, first of all, the Lakers have had a great 2 weeks. He said the Lakers saved the NBA season. That's because them fools on the other network, which we're going to be working for next year, that's all they talk about. Let me tell y'all something.
Tell me something.
And first of all, I want all the smoke. I don't whistle when I walk by the graveyard or anything like that.
I don't whistle when I walk by the graveyard.
Right.
I like that.
Hey, man.
I'm stealing that one.
The Lakers are doing great. Got a long way to go. But the reason the season's been going great for the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Y'all just want to talk about the Warriors and the Lakers. They're both doing great. Don't get me wrong. If I turn out to be wrong, I got no problem with that. But y'all are idiots because y'all talk about the Lakers and the Warriors all the time. Y'all don't. The Cleveland Cavaliers have won 12 straight games. The Oklahoma City got the MVP, and they are on fire. Y'all are talking about who's in second place. That's the reason I get pissed. Hey, the Lakers are doing great. I don't mind being wrong. The Warriors are doing great. But that's because you fools on other networks, which we're going to become fools next year. We'll be working on that network. But Oklahoma City and the Cavs been balling for 6 months. Y'all talking about teams that had two great weeks.
Time out. I get what you're saying. You just went at the whole network.
They talk about the same
the whole
stuff.
industry.
Whole industry. They talk about the same stuff every single day.
I would have to, but you know, there's
Is there some credit? Is there some credit to be handed out here?
Yes. But don't say basketball's only watching now. First of all, between that and this lame-ass LeBron-Michael Jordan debate, which is lame. I've said it for years. The only people talk about LeBron and Michael is people on television who got no talent to talk about anything else. I've been saying that for years. I ain't hanging on to the 90s. I've always said LeBron's great, Michael's great. But y'all talk about it all the time and then got LeBron out there posing, talking about he all mad about being the face of the league. But it makes me mad. The Oklahoma City and the Cleveland Cavaliers are the two best stories in the NBA this year. Congratulations to the Lakers and the Warriors. They've had 2 good weeks. The Cavs and OKC have had 6 great months.
Okay. Tell us how you really feel.
All right.
Yeah, Shaq. Tell
The
us how
birthday
you feel.
man. All right. Is this one of your favorite rants of all time?
Yes, it is. Thank you. I needed that on my birthday.
Charles is he's one of a kind, and he can get away with it. He's right in so many areas. ESPN, so they can kiss LaFraud's ass, talk about the Lakers, and JJ Redick, who used to work for ESPN, so they can kiss his rear end. I'm not a JJ Redick fan in no way, shape, or form. He worked, kind of conned LeBron into forcing the Lakers to taking him as their head coach. And he's right. Cleveland and Oklahoma City are 2 of the best teams in the NBA. Not the Lakers, not Golden State. And LaFraud James is not the face of the NBA, not close to the face of the NBA. There's so many good players, so many great players now. And this debate of LaFraud and Michael Jordan is ridiculous. Michael Jordan is hands down the greatest player ever in the NBA. There would have been a debate with Wilt Chamberlain, but a lot of people didn't see Wilt, and whatever the case, it's not even debatable. But Charles is right, because that's all they want to do on ESPN is kiss their rear end. And unfortunately, TNT couldn't get a deal, but that same pre-post halftime show is going to move over to ESPN, but they're still going to be the same guys. It's just, I just can't. I can't add anything to what Charles said, but it was actually really good. All right, we have a caller, and we'll end it up with Matt from Mayfair. Let's go to Matt. Hey, Matt, what's up?
What's up, King? How you doing today?
It's another day in paradise.
I hear you. Listen, ESPN, TNT, Prism, it doesn't matter to me, Howard. The NBA is a terrible product. I
get it. It really is.
They're complaining about apples and oranges when the barrel's rotten. I really don't understand that.
Well, I don't think again, they want to kiss LeBron's rear end. He's not one of the 5 best players all time. Now, right now, he's just trying to build up his points. Nobody's going to catch them anyway because he's played so many years. He doesn't play defense. It's just, it's really ridiculous to even, why they keep on. It's LeBron this and LeBron that and LeBron. Enough. He involves himself in so many things, and it's a shame that he put his son in the position of being criticized because he's just not good enough. So, but the NBA is a horrible product. It's a terrible product. Not just here in Philadelphia. Here in Philadelphia, it's a joke, but everywhere. It's just, the Sixers hope to get a good pick. Well, whatever. It's just.
Howard. Let's talk about the Sixers real quick. And I'm about to go to maybe a more extreme suggestion, but I don't see a way out for the Sixers. In my lifetime.
2 bad contracts.
In my lifetime. No, I think it's so bad. I would actually be okay if Josh Howard said he's going to relocate the team to Seattle, make them the new Supersonics, and we put ourselves in bid for a new expansion team. Howard, is that bad that I don't think there's no way out for this franchise right now. I think we need to start over like totally
they
start over.
won't. They have no chance for a championship for 10 years. It's
Exactly.
kind of sad, but for 10 years, it's just. And as long as Daryl Morey buries them and drives them into the ground, and Josh Harris is the owner, the majority or the owner that controls this franchise, it's never going to happen. It's unbelievable. But what else did you want to say, Matt? Before
Last thing, I caught your show with Larry Boa the other day, which again, a great interview. Larry's an all-time guy. Obviously,
Larry's
grew up
great.
watching him. But what I'm not seeing, and of course I'm not in the clubhouse, so I can't tell you. I don't see this team. I see this team trending downwards because I just don't think they've done enough. I think they're the third best team in their division, and I think they're the fourth best team in the National League right now. I know everyone's talking about the pitching, but again, I don't see that past Nolan Wheeler. I don't see where the pitching is great either. I think I see a lot of question marks with the starting
they're
pitching.
starting pitching. I mean, Zach Wheeler, Nola, Sanchez looks like he's going to be a good pitcher. They hope the guy they signed from Toronto,
Jose Luzardo?
Yeah, Lazaro. Lazaro, he didn't have a good outing the last time. Spring training games mean nothing. Absolutely zero to the fans. Zero. So you don't look at results. But and Taijuan Walker should never, ever step on the mound as a starting pitcher for the Phillies again unless 4 guys get hurt. And remember, Andrew Painter's going to come back probably second half of the season at some point to help him out. They don't have a closer, but their starting pitching is good, and that's what will keep them in it. I think the Mets are better, and I still think Atlanta's going to be better. And Larry Boa thinks they're going to win. When I was talking to him on the podcast, 95 to 97 games, that's not going to happen.
No, I disagree.
They're still a good team. They're still a good team.
And then the last thing I'll go about the lineup and about moving Schwarber down. I agree. Moving Schwarber down the lineup gives you more opportunities to capitalize on what he does well, and that's hit home runs. But Howard, this entire roster has been misconstructed. The hitters are not balanced with each other, and trying to manipulate this lineup to make it optimal, that's going to be a really hard pill to swallow because it's going to be these players are not. It's just not balanced. It's never been balanced.
Well, they strike out too much. They swing for home runs, and that's what they've done, and they've got to change that. But there's a message here from somebody, Fred Shaughnessy. Phillies will probably be good enough to make the playoffs. You never know what happens if they get in, but not sure if that's enough.
No.
You never know what happens, and pitching is a part of it. But we'll see. The team that wins a division, sometimes it doesn't matter if you have the bye. They shouldn't have byes. But whatever, Matt. I appreciate you joining the program again.
Anytime,
Thanks.
Howard.
Hey, say hello to all my friends in Mayfair.
I will. I'll make sure I let the one person know you said hi.
See, for people, and thanks, Matt, for people outside the Philadelphia area that may be watching this podcast on the Howard Eskin Show, Mayfair is an interesting area. It's right on the waterfront. Yeah, if you go far enough, it's on the waterfront. Now, the water, I don't know if it's clean water because it's the Delaware River. I see Angelo said, Howard said trade Embiid 3 years ago. Going back to that, yeah. I mean, I try to look at some of the comments while I'm doing the show. But anyway, thanks to Dr. Nick DiNubile. Tries to explain. It wasn't, and again, he's not the Sixers doctor, and if he was, we couldn't talk to him about Embiid. It's just, it doesn't sound like it's going to be sounds like he's going to miss at least half next season if he has any kind of surgery. And then you're worried that he's going to be overweight, worried he's going to put everything into it. I can't believe that Daryl Morey was in any way sane when he signed him to a 4-year extension starting next year. I just can't believe it. All right. Thanks to everybody. Thanks to Dick DiNubile. Thanks for the people that joined the program. We will try to have people join the program all the time. Thanks to ABC Tickets for being a part of it. Thanks to Audi Devon. Actually, I might pop over there after I'm done the show, say hello to the folks, just to say hi and check in and see what's new on the showroom floor. But whatever. Thank you. Wednesday night, our next podcast. Last Wednesday I had my son straight in from Hollywood. He wouldn't share too much about the actors, but we got a little bit out of him, so it was fun. Thanks to you, and take care and have a great whether it's the weekend, the week. Have a great time, and we'll see you again on Wednesday night, 7:30. Take care.